When it comes to watching a movie or a TV show or doing literally anything else, I will always choose anything else. But when you live in a world where everyone loves watching TV shows and movies, which is normal, by the way, I'm the one that's not normal, you just can't run away from it forever. My boyfriend really likes watching TV shows and movies, and sometimes he'll invite me to watch something with him. And every so often, I'll get over myself and I'll agree. And this was one of those times. I actually did see part of an episode of Attack on Titan back when it was relatively new. I think I was like probably 12 or 13 years old at the time, and my brother really wanted to watch it with me, but I just like couldn't do it. Like the blood and the violence, it was just like too much for me. So fast forward about a decade, the entire show is out, every single episode, and so we're free to watch it without any buffers or anything. And my boyfriend recommended that we watch it together, and I was like, you know what? I'm older now. Let's give it a shot. Now, even someone like myself who is so far removed from the anime community, I had heard really, really good things about Attack on Titan, and the reviews I read about the show are absolutely phenomenal. Like, these were some of the highest ratings I've ever seen for like really anything. So I just finished watching this show earlier this week, and I have to say, yeah. It is a damn good show. Now, before I start sharing my opinions on the show, I just want to preface that there will be spoilers in this video, and I know I'm like super late to the party, but if you by chance are watching Attack on Titan right now and you're not finished yet, please stop watching this video because I don't want to spoil it for you. If you've never seen Attack on Titan before and you're planning on watching it, also please stop watching this video. And lastly, if you've never seen Attack on Titan and you don't plan on watching Attack on Titan, I am begging you to please go watch Attack on Titan. And also, respectfully, please stop watching this video. Watching Attack on Titan is such an experience, and I cannot recommend it enough. Like, genuinely so good. But now that that's out of the way, I want to go ahead and talk about my opinions on the show. I had no idea what to expect going into watching Attack on Titan because I had nothing spoiled for me, believe it or not. Like, literally zero spoilers. I didn't know anything about the show. The only thing I knew for sure was that it was about these really big people that would eat normal sized people. And that was only because I saw a clip of an episode when I was younger, and that's all I remember from it. And I was horrified from that experience. And I think knowing nothing about it was probably the best part about it. And I think if you've seen the show all the way through, you can also kind of attest to that as well. Like, watching it for the first time all the way through, not knowing what's gonna happen, it is such a wild journey to go on. Attack on Titan is so beautiful, I think is the best way to say it. From the beginning, you're introduced to these three insanely likable characters, Mikasa, Armin, and Eren, and you follow along in their journey of saving the world against these giant titans who are killing off their loved ones and humanity. I know that it sounds crazy that I called this show beautiful now, but it doesn't end here because you're constantly being introduced to these really likable characters, and then you find out a little more information about them, and then you hate them, and then you find out a little more information about them, and then you love them again. So it's this constant cycle of like loving and hating characters, but you only hate them when you don't understand them. And then once you understand them, you start to love them again because you realize that they're not trying to do anything wrong, they're actually trying to do the right thing, but what's the right thing to do? And you as the viewer feel that as well because you're like, this is the way it has to go in order to save the world, and then you're introduced to this new knowledge of what's going on, and you're like, oh shit, like, maybe that's not the right thing to do. And then Eren Yeager, who is the main protagonist in this show, turns out to be the person who kills off 80% of the planet. Attack on Titan is unlike any other show I've ever seen in my life. It does such a great job of tricking the audience into thinking one way and then doing a complete 180 on you. You never ever know what's gonna happen next, but then when it happens, it makes sense. And that's why I love it so much, because you can really tell how much thought and effort was put into creating the story. And I read online that the whole story was written out and created before the manga and the anime were made. Unlike a lot of other shows where episodes are written as the show goes on, this entire show was written out before anything was made. And it really shows. It really shows, because the way that this show is crafted is so perfectly done. You even start to realize that if you paid more attention to details in earlier episodes, that you probably could have pieced some stuff in the future together, but without having more knowledge, you wouldn't even know what to look for. It really makes me want to rewatch the whole show again because I want to see if I can like pinpoint those details earlier on and see them show up later down the road. As I was watching the show, I took mental notes of characters that I found particularly interesting. A character that I thought was super well written and just honestly had the most depth was Reiner. Being someone who infiltrated the scouts and then pretended to be one of them, it was a very frustrating experience for me to watch that. But then later on you realize that he's honestly just like the scouts, just on the opposite team. And so it really makes you question, like, is what he's doing actually bad? So he's in this position where he's trying to do what's best for his home, while everyone else is trying to do what's best for their home. It's really interesting to see Reiner's perspective change as these people that are supposed to be devils turn out to just be people. I think Reiner is actually the first person to fully realize and accept that both sides are pretty similar in terms of what they're trying to do, and they're very like-minded and no one is really in the wrong. And this causes a lot of issues for him mentally. It's so crazy seeing him go from this super confident person to ultimately becoming extremely self-deprecating and very depressed. Although he's an enemy of the Scouts, he starts to kind of get it twisted in his head and starts to think that he's actually a part of the Scouts. I just really wanted to share my opinion on him and also just praise how well written and thought through he is as a character. And he's just the one I found the most interesting, but he's by no means the only well-written character in the show. I mean, like, pretty much every character that has significance is extremely well-written in this show. It's just so awesome, and I wanted to give a huge shout out to the writer for this because the effort really shines through here with just how deep and complex these characters really are on the inside. And now we're gonna go into some of my critiques. Honestly, I don't have many, and also please take these with a grain of salt because these are like very nitpicky. This show to me was like near perfect. There were a few things that kind of stood out to me that I wanted to talk about, but by no means do these mean that I wish the show went a different way or anything like that. The first thing is I did get a little confused towards the end. I think a lot of like the flipping between like future and the present and the past, it was just like too much for me. And my boyfriend and I had to pause the show several times so I could ask him like a bunch of questions, kind of smoothing out how quickly it switches and like making it a little more clear when it is switching would have been a little better because I was getting confused, but it also could just be like my little pea brain like not understanding anything, but I was able to figure it out eventually. Also, my boyfriend helped me figure out a lot of the stuff that I was confused about. The music isn't really my thing, to be honest, and obviously this could just be a difference of taste, but the one thing that I feel like kind of took a little bit away from the experience and the suspense was that a lot of the time the music kind of gave away the outcome like without giving away the outcome, if you know what I mean. Like the music would either be like super hopeful or like positive, and you would, by listening to the music, know that it's gonna end well or know that it's gonna end poorly. And it kind of kills the suspense a little bit because you already know what's gonna happen before it happens because the music kind of just gives it to you. Also, a lot of the songs just like were not my taste, and so like it wasn't the most enjoyable soundtrack for me, but there were a few songs on the soundtrack I did really like. Rumbling is such a funny song to me, like that's really my only critique of the music and the soundtrack though. The ending of the show is so controversial, and by this I mean people either loved the ending or hated the ending. And in my opinion, this just kind of further proves why I think that the ending that was chosen was the best ending that there could have been. Just like how everyone's fighting over whether or not the ending was good or not, the show kind of does the same thing where it says, you know, no matter what, people are always gonna fight and war is always gonna break out again, no matter how long the period of peace is. It's in our nature to have our own opinions and views on things, and in return, this does cause conflict and friction. In my opinion, the ending was perfect. Like, it was really sad and I cried, and that's okay. It's okay to not always have the happiest ending. And also, this show was like constantly downhill like the whole time. Like, things were always going wrong literally the whole time. So did you really think it was gonna be a happy ending? Like, genuinely, did you really think there was gonna be a happy ending? Me personally, I didn't know how it was gonna end, but I definitely didn't think it was gonna be a very happy ending. Although it wasn't happy though, it was definitely a very hopeful ending. It's like, although war can happen, peace can also happen, and it's cyclical. But it's all about working towards that peace in hopes that one day it'll stay that way. At the very end of the show, when everything was crashing into the city and the kid with his dog goes into the tree, I saw that as like, we don't know how long it's gonna take, but that is like hope that there will be peace again. And so I thought that was a really beautiful way to end the show. Alright guys, this has been my take on Attack on Titan. No, I'm super late as always to making videos about things that were popular like years ago. Thank you for watching. I hope that if you've seen the show already, this kind of brought back some memories, or if you recently watched it, I hope this has also been a fun video for you to watch as well. This is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. It actually, for me, beats out Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm not gonna lie. Like, Avatar: The Last Airbender was my favorite show ever, but I feel like low-key this has really changed my opinion. I'm like being so real. But anyway guys, that's all I have for this week. If you have any recommendations for different animes that I should watch, feel free to comment them down below. I may or may not watch them, we'll see. I'm still recovering from Attack on Titan, so it might be a while before I can start watching something else. I was recommended Arcane and then Code Geass, I think is how you pronounce it. So I'm thinking about watching one of those. But anyway guys, that's all for this week, so I will see you next Saturday with another video. So until then,